Hello and welcome to the Rocky Mountain Carry YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be going over bar locks, and I'm going to try to rate some of the different iterations of bar locks through different brands and try to decide which ones, in my opinion, are the best. So a few things to go over. I've been looking forward to this video for a while. I've been trying to collect a few different kinds of locks, so I'm excited for it. But as always, we're going to do it in one take. So I apologize beforehand for any sort of disorganization that happens throughout the video. A few other things to mention is that I'm going to be talking only about the locks in this video. So this is nothing to say about the knife in general. Some of these knives I really like other than the lock, and possibly vice versa. So first of all that. Second, as always, I'm rating the knife in front of me. Chances are that I have just a bad example of the knife, and I'll try to mention that if I think that may be the case in these knives. Some of these are brand new out of the box. Some of these have been used by me, or I purchased them used, and some of these are modded. Some of them have never been messed with, so I'll try to mention that as well. And yeah, let's dive into it. So the way I'm going to do this is I'll be moving them up as I rate them. I'm going to try to do them in ascending order. So I'll start with my least favorite and move my way up to my favorite one. I'll put the winner up here on the right side of the screen. I did a few things in rating these. First of all, I kind of had my first impression of each of these bar locks. I already had an idea of which one would come in which place in this video, so I took that into account as I rated them, but I did go through and try to kind of systematically rate them as well. So the way I did that was I rated them the way they open, the way they close. Yes, I did that separately. The lockup on it, because at the end of the day, the bar lock is supposed to be a lock. How it feels, so kind of a tactile idea of each one, and then the profile of the bar lock. Is it sticking out too much to be kind of a distraction, or does it fit nicely into a slim profile of the knife? And then I rated them in each one of those sections, and I will kind of talk about those as I go. So the one that I'm going to put on the bottom here is actually going to be, it might not be a surprise if anyone's seen my video on this knife. It's a big part of the reason that I actually am thinking I'm going to get rid of it. This is a Bestech. This knife is called the Slasher, and Bestech, they just call it a bar lock. So yeah, Bestech's bar lock. If I'm assuming that all Bestech knives are like this, I would put them in last place from the examples that I have here. The reasons are, this is actually the only one that got a fail on the opening. All these knives open very smoothly. This one opens pretty smoothly, but compared to the other ones I have here, it's weird. It almost feels like a chore to open it, which should definitely not be the case. In a bar lock, it feels like there's some resistance. Closing, it does drop shut pretty good. The lockup on it is fine, actually. It's really good. As far as feel on this thing, I didn't love it. It's interesting. It's kind of a rounded off, sort of tiered little button there on the bar, but it's fine. But when I compare it to these other ones, I just don't like it as much. Feels like it doesn't get as good a grip as some of the other ones. It feels almost too rounded off. And as far as the profile, this thing sticks out a lot. I'm not a huge fan of that, just how far it juts out from the handle of this knife. So that one's going in last place. The next one in line is going to be the CRKT crossbar. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of this knife right now. CRKT released a few knives with their crossbar lock on it. This is one of them. It's a budget version. This one's in D2. It's another thing I failed to mention. These brands obviously have released budget and budget knives, as well as just, you know, regularly priced or even like flagship models with their locks. And I would be curious to know whether it changes at all from one to the next. I wouldn't really expect it to, but that is something to think about. This is not their flagship bar lock model. This is a less expensive Burma design. But anyway, on this guy, opens fine, and closes okay. So I was really getting pretty stingy here with the closing. My test was to hold them straight up and try to drop them shut, basically. It's really, I can't really show it with this camera angle. This one needed maybe a tiny bit more motivation than the other ones, and that could have to do with the blade geometry, things like that. So I try not to count that against it too hard, but I mean, it opens fine, shuts fine. The lock on it is actually really good. It does, I just don't love the feel of this one. That's kind of why it's so low. It's almost sharp and it sticks out a ton. The profile on this is not great either. So I'm going to put that one next, CRKT's crossbar lock. Moving right along, this next one may be a surprise to some. I'm going to put Kershaw Duralock next. So I have here the Kershaw Heist. Obviously, there's also the Iridium, which is perhaps a slightly nicer knife in some regards, but I really love the Heist. I need to go and do a video rating this knife alone, but lots of good things to say about this knife. Unfortunately, the lock is not one of them, and it's kind of ruined almost this knife for me. That's the one thing. If this would nearly be a perfect knife for me, I feel like if this lock, if I was more happy with the Duralock. Like I said, I don't know if I just have a bad example on this. This is actually one I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. In fact, in my rating scale, this one versus the CRKT actually came out the same. I'm giving this one the slight edge, just because it seems like I'm the only one that doesn't like it. I don't know, I'm sure there are, but I've heard people online really liking it. My buddy who's handled this actually really likes it as well. He came over the other day and picked it up and was like, oh, you must have worked on this thing. It feels really good. And I was like, it's the same as last time when I told you I didn't love it. And I have tried to work on, you know, oiling this thing, getting it as smooth as I can. I've just never been happy with it. And let me get into the nitty gritty. Tell you why. Opening, it's nice and smooth, no problem. The biggest thing for me, the reason that I'm not a fan of this as a bar lock, is I believe personally that a bar lock should drop shut. That should be a defining characteristic of one of these knives, and this one just does not. I can't get it to. I've tried to fiddle with it. It's just real slow to close. You can kind of see there, just flicking that just a little bit. Most of these knives would close with just a little bit, just like that. Most of them would close with that. This one doesn't quite. It's not like a huge deal, I guess, but fidget factor for me is big with these types of knives, and this one just doesn't have it because of that. As you can see, you know, if I just put a little bit of wrist into it, it'll close no problem. So that's true, but it's just, it bothers me to no end. I want it to be better. So that's that. So the closing, the lockup on this is pretty good. This is right in the middle. There's some on here that are just bad, and you'll see it. I'll show you on the other ones that lock up great. This one's just right in the middle. There's a little bit of play, but nothing crazy. It's totally fine. As far as feel, this one does feel pretty good. It's got kind of a cool little shape to it. It's nice and smooth. It's not quite as grippy though as some of the other ones. Like, it doesn't grab quite as easy. So there's that. And then as far as profile, this is like This the bar lock on this barely adds to the profile at all, which is cool because this is a slim knife and you want that. But that's why I kind of docked a little bit of points to the feel. It makes it slightly harder to open than some of these other ones. That can be either a good or bad thing, you know. Maybe you don't want somebody opening your knife. Maybe that's a safety thing. But for me, I prefer the, it's hard at this angle to even do this. Prefer the ease of opening of the other knives. This one's so slim that it kind of makes it slightly more difficult to open because of that. So that's why I'm going to put our Kershaw heist. Well, sorry, I'm not reading the heist here. I'm writing the Duralock. Moving on from there, I'm going to put our Best Techman, whatever. This is Best Tech's kind of budget line of knives. And wow, it's gonna bug me that I can't remember the names of these guys as we're going. This is I think this is the Ronin. Dang, I really should have looked these up. So this is the Best Techman, but really like I said, I'm rating the locks here. So Best Techman calls theirs, it's just a bar lock. So we'll go over this one. The Best Techman, open, great, close, drops shut nicely. The lockup on this is actually really good as well. Oops, just about cut myself. Lockup's really good. The feel on this one, somewhere in the middle. It's like pretty good. As you can see, I've kind of got an indent, kind of like the clutch lock or the axis lock. And it's fine. It just doesn't feel quite as good as some of the other ones. It's a little bit more rounded off, again, like the Best Tech was. It is a little bit better to grab onto than the Best Tech, but still kind of smooth compared to the other ones, I would say. Going on from there, profile, this thing juts out pretty far as well, just like the Best Tech did. And I'm not a huge fan of that, those knobs sticking clear off the profile of the blade. It's just like a little bit annoying. Not a huge deal necessarily, but I prefer that to sit a little bit closer to the handle. So we're going to put the Best Techman bar lock there, which is interesting. You'll see that the Best Tech and the Best Techman are that far different in my lineup here. And they really do feel that different to me. It may be this, I should say the slasher I bought used. The Best Techman was straight out of the box for me, so brand new to me, as were both of these, brand new out of the box. That's part of why I was so upset actually with this Kershaw out of the box. Did not feel great to me. So yeah, that's that. There's disparity in those for me. They do feel different, and they actually are slightly different. I don't know if that's the case on all of them, but it's interesting that their budget lock to me feels better than the other one does. Okay, moving on. That was our Best Techman. Vosteed is next. The crossbar. This is the Vosteed Raccoon with the crossbar lock. Nice knife. I like my card on this guy. Anyway, the reason this guy is where it is, it finds itself kind of squarely right in the middle of these options, or toward the upper end. Once again, we have a tie in score between this one and the last one. This one, for me, tied with the Best Techman bar lock. But for me, it was, let's see, the thing that differentiated these two, let me take a quick look, and it looks like, oh, so the thing that surprised, this was all going into it, I would have said this was my favorite. It just has a better feel to it. The thing that actually dropped it down when I went to do my ratings is I realized the lockup on it is actually not good. So I wouldn't say it's as bad as some of the other ones, another one I'm about to get to, but it's not good. It's worse than all of the other ones so far. It's worse than the Kershaw, for example. And that's why it ended up here. And so that's really the only thing that kind of brought it down. A lot of the other stuff I like about it. And that's why I ended up putting it above the Best Heckman. So opens great, closes great, feels really good actually. One of the, just as smooth as any of the other ones here, I would say. Lock up on it, like I said, not good. It feels good, feels really good. So this is where we start to get to the ones that probably feel the best to me. And that's kind of why they ended up towards the top. It's easy to grip onto, but doesn't feel sharp at all. Where the CRKT to me, almost kind of sharp, like not comfortable. This one feels good in hand, so. Profile, I give it a kind of in the middle. It does stick out quite a bit. I would say not quite as bad as the Best Tech ones do. So that's the Boss Seed crossbar lock. All right, we are getting down into the final, well, so you'll notice that the knives I have below me are actually duplicates. So these are both Kaiser clutch locks, and these are both Benchmade axis locks. And those are going to come in for, and like I said from the beginning, I kind of knew these were going to be my top two. So coming in at number 2, and I am going to have to talk through these ones quite a bit, but and explain what's going on here, because some of these knives are actually not going to fall in the same spot. Number 2, I have got the OG axis lock. So the reason that these bar locks are kind of popping up on the market like crazy is, I guess the patent for the axis lock expired not too long ago, and if you are kind of active in the knife community at all, you will be familiar with all of the brands suddenly just dumping their own iterations of the axis lock, dumping all these different bar locks onto the market, and it's getting flooded. That was actually the purpose of me creating this video. So I hope I was able to get a lot of the examples out there. I know there's more brands that I haven't covered. But here we have, in second place for me, is the axis lock from Benchmade. Really a big fan of it. I've liked this. This is my first Benchmade that I bought, and my first bug out. This was kind of when I got into knives, I guess my grill knife in a way, before I was willing to spend $100+ on a knife. Obviously we're far past that at this point. But yeah, the bar lock on this guy does feel pretty good. So I'll go through, just like I did the others, and kind of rate this one. In all fairness, this, obviously I've modded this knife. I've taken this apart, put it back together, and I've messed with it so that the action is right where I want it. So that may be unfair to some of these other ones, but is what it is. I have to, like I said, I'm rating the knife in front of me, so here we go. Even going off, and I will say that out of the box, I would think this is still where I would put this, probably. Okay, so the reason this guy is where it is, opening, awesome, closing, awesome. Like I said, this thing, I've taken it apart, put it back together, lubed it, and made it, and adjusted the tightness on it. So it's exactly where I want it. So it feels great. As far as the lock goes, this is where this guy loses points for sure. The lock is very bad. It's terrible on this. These axis locks, I found that they're kind of difficult to adjust where you want them. It's like you tighten them too much and then they don't want to open anymore, but you get a good lockup, but then I loosen it to right where I want that action to be, where it's just buttery, beautiful smoothness. Like, whew, love the action on this thing. Like I said, right where I want it. Unfortunately, that puts me with some play there. Like, I can live with that. I don't really care that there is a lot of play on this thing, but I care more about the action than I care about that play. So it's a compromise that I've made. Anyway, so the lock back is bad, honestly. As far as tactile feel on this guy, I really like this one. I think it's actually aided by the scales on this one. I do have some, I think they call them crossfade scales from Flightanium on this, and they really make the bar lock nice on this. It's accessible. It's because of the way that this is kind of machined out. Makes it easier to grab on this guy compared to the one that's straight out of the box. So this one does fit, they kind of designed it to fit narrow profile to the blade, kind of like the Duralock. And it just makes it so it's just not quite as easy to grab onto, where this one, where they gave you kind of this cleft and then kind of created this spot here. It's made it so that there's a little bit more of that bar exposed, and so it just makes it really nice to grab onto. So really smooth bar on this guy, but there's just enough sticking out that makes it really nice to grab onto, easy to open, and yeah, nice and smooth. So really like this guy, and the profile is still really great with these scales. So really love these things, by the way. So anyway, that's going to be my second place. I know I have 4 knives left, but I'm second place. I'm rating them right now kind of only one example of each of these locks, and then I'll talk about where these other ones fall after. Finally, for my number 1, as I knew it would be, I've absolutely loved this bar lock. For me, Kaiser just knocked it out of the park. I think it's perfection. Like, I don't know if I will find a bar lock that I like better than this one. Never say never, right? But this thing just feels so good to me. Love the action on this thing. Really satisfying, like, sounds as well. So that thing just snaps into place, snaps back, drops shut beautifully. Open, feels so nice, perfect, drops shut beautifully, super buttery smooth out of the box. By the way, this, I did buy this drop bear myself. This is out of the box. I've done absolutely no modifying. I haven't taken it apart, nothing, straight out the box. And it feels like as good as my bug out that I've messed with. So let's talk about the things. This scored perfectly on my scale. Love the opening, love the way it closed. The lockup is actually, this is kind of what blew me away, is that before this, my, example was the axis lock on my bug out, which, like I said, not great. This thing is actually super tight lockup, which is awesome. So lockup is great. It feels fantastic to me in hand. This is just like no sharp edges, but just enough to grip. And then on the profile, you'll notice it does stick out a little bit more than the Axis or the Duralock on the Benchmade and the Kershaw. But for me, it's a happy medium. Someone else might disagree and say, like, it's obviously sticking out quite a bit, and I harped on the other ones for that. But for me, it's just the right amount. So let's compare it so you have an idea. Let's compare it to this one, actually, because I think that one might be even worse. So you can see how much, just like how hulking and enormous the bar lock is on this CRKT, and then compare that to the Kaiser. So quite a bit more petite compared to these guys. And then that one is the Best Tech. So same kind of deal. You'll notice it's just smaller, and for me that's just the right amount. It's just enough that it feels like you've got something to grab onto. It's only what they needed, no more, no less. So I think that's just right for me. Perfect. This is 5 out of 5 on my scale. Scored perfectly in every category. So love the Kaiser clutch lock. And then just to add to it, if you didn't know, the clutch lock is actually adjustable. You can take this apart, you can tighten it up so that there's more resistance, or you can loosen it up. I haven't done that. Would be interesting. I would like to see if I would like it with a little bit more resistance. I don't think I'd make it less, but it's an option too. So pretty cool, lots of fun, great lock. So for me, king of the bar locks is the Kaiser clutch lock. And this is it on the Kaiser drop bear. So for these other guys, the reason they're still here, this is a Kaiser drop bear that I bought used. Opens, closes fine, drops shut, lock up is nice. And this one I have taken apart and the lockup is still very good on it. So I have messed with, I don't actually think I've taken it apart, I've just adjusted it a few times. It'll come loose, then I just tighten it back up, and that's an awesome thing that I've been able to see from these clutch locks as compared to the Axis lock. It loosened up on me, I just tighten it back up, and I can pretty much just like tighten that basically as far as I could, and the action still feels amazing. It doesn't tighten the action up to the point that I can't open it anymore, which is awesome. So the reason that this one's different than the other one, excuse me, sorry. Like I said, this one is used, so the only difference is that when I did the drop shut on this guy, it didn't drop quite as easily as the other one, and I'm just going to say that's because this one is used and maybe hasn't been cleaned out. Might be a little bit of grit in there, just holding it back a little bit. So it's still, even in the shape that it's in, I would still say it edges out even my modded bug out. So there you have it. And then this other bug out is a used one that I got. Actually got a really good deal on this guy from a buddy on Instagram. It is used. I've been meaning to get in and do some kind of TLC on this guy, because I'm guessing there's a little bit of grit and grime kind of making this action a little worse than it would be out of the box. So if you're curious, this guy actually, when I rated it alongside the other ones, it would drop down to here next to the Best Tech and the CRKT. It would fall right there. Reason being, it did not drop shut, which I told you was a big deal for me. It's not dropping shut. So it may just be that it's too tight. Maybe that it needs a little bit of lube. May just need to be cleaned out. So any of those things, that's kind of why I didn't rank it with the other ones. And then the other thing is obviously the lock. Like I said, these Axis, at least the examples that I have of the Axis lock, they never lock up that good. Feels like the other one just, the other thing is it drops in the ranking a little bit because it doesn't have these scales on it that I said I really like. Makes this knife feel so nice, by the way. And then that made it drop a few points just because of this. And then, yeah. So like I said, as is, I would have to put this guy right here. Out of the box though, if I had to guess, it would probably fall in here. The Axis lock, so right about in the same spot still. But yeah, I'll throw him in the lineup where I told you he belongs right now. So yeah, that's how I would rank these locks right now. I've got Best Tech bar lock at the bottom, followed by the CRKT crossbar, then Kershaw Duralock, Best Techman bar lock, Vosteed crossbar lock. Then we get into the Benchmade Axis lock, and finally the winner is the Kaiser clutch lock. If I had to say, these guys all feel very nice. So if you're thinking about getting one, you're like, oh, you said like Vosteed wasn't very good. No, this one actually feels really good. These ones aren't necessarily bad either. Getting down here, I disliked this one. Not a fan really of that iteration. I was very disappointed in this one. I hope the other ones are better. This one's okay. These ones are all very good. I would recommend any of these. So clutch lock, axis lock, and then the crossbar on the Vosteed, all very good. Hope to see better from, this is the big one for me. I hope to see better Duralock. So I want to be proved wrong on this. I'd love to see a better example of the Duralock. This one's just not doing it for me. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching the video. This has been ranking the crossbar locks through 7 different, let's see, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I did 7 different locks. So clutch, axis, Vosteed, Best Techman, Dura, CRKT, and if you count Best Tech as 2, so that's 7 different examples of locks here. Yeah, thanks for watching along, and I hope to see you on the next video.